If you listen to our politicians, if you listen to the Governor of the Bank of England, if you listen to our journalists, all of them will tell you that the Bank of England is independent. And I doubt that that is true. The claim that the Bank of England is independent is based upon something called the Bank of England Act 1998, which was passed by the Blair government very soon after it came into office. It was introduced in 1997, it became law in 1998. It was the brainchild of Ed Balls, who is now the husband of the current Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper. The aim of Bank of England independence was to take away responsibility for running the bank from elected politicians. Plain straightforwardly, Labour did not believe that elected politicians could be trusted with running the Bank of England because the public, they thought, didn't trust politicians with money. Therefore, they wanted to pass over the running of the Bank of England to wise people who they claimed would do it better than any politician could. The fact that this revealed that the Labour government had no confidence in itself seems to not have been noticed at the time, and every politician since then has said that this is a very good thing, that they should not be trusted, and that these wise people should run banking policy and monetary policy for the UK economy. I stress the point, banking policy and monetary policy, because in fact the Bank of England does regulate the financial services industry, or large parts of it, as well as run monetary policy as part of the total economic policy, for which the government as a whole should be responsible, but for which this part has been outsourced. Now, was that wise? In my opinion, no. Why? Because monetary policy, which is trying to control the economy through the setting of interest rates to control inflation, is really very simple and very straightforward, except that there's very little evidence that interest rates do actually control inflation. But that task is handed to them, and the management of the rest of the economy is left with the UK Treasury. So the fiscal policy side, which is all about the balance between government spending and taxation, is left with the Treasury. And the control of inflation, which is of course impacted by that relationship between the amount of government spending and taxation, is given to the Bank of England, the two then being unrelated, which results in a lack of coordination and discordant economic policy. So we have an economic policy that is designed to always be under stress. The Treasury may want one thing, the Bank of England may want another. We saw this most emphatically during those relatively few days when Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng were responsible for the Treasury, and the Bank of England most definitely was going in a different direction. But frankly, this happens quite a lot. But in reality, is this quite as significant as it seems? If you actually read the Bank of England Act 1998, and I have, and I suspect I'm one of a tiny number who bothered to do so, you will find that it actually includes a provision that says that if the Chancellor does not agree with what the Bank of England is doing, then the Chancellor may put an order before Parliament to overrule the bank. Now, there have to be supposedly exceptional economic circumstances when this will arise, and that sounds as though it's a pretty difficult thing to prove, except the decision that there are exceptional economic circumstances appears to rest with the Chancellor. In other words, they can do this whenever they like, if they so want. But they don't even need to do that, because they have the power to overrule the bank, available to them at any moment because of this legal provision. A wise governor of the Bank of England will listen to what the Treasury says to them. And they do, of course, talk to each other. The fact that we have high interest rates at the moment is not because the Bank of England is in an outright disagreement with the government. If the government had sent the signal to the Bank of England that interest rates should fall, I think you would have discovered pretty quickly that those interest rates would begin to tumble. But that isn't the message that's being sent. These people will sit round a table together, agree broadly what they want, and although there are external members of the Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee, it is actually controlled by bank employees. There are 5 of them as opposed to 4 external members, and therefore, whenever the bank employees want to get their way, whatever the external members think, they will have the majority, and therefore, if they were told by the government, you will cut interest rates, that would happen. Now, it isn't, because I don't believe that Rachel Reeves wants interest rates cut. But that doesn't mean to say the Bank of England isn't under government control. In fact, I'd say it's evidence that the Bank of England is under government control, because Rachel Reeves so firmly believes in the policy that the Bank of England has established. But let's just stand back again and remind you of what I said at the outset. Everybody says the Bank of England is independent, but my belief is that it isn't. It actually will always work at the behest of the Treasury at the end of the day. There will never be an exceptional circumstance where the Chancellor's had to overrule the bank, because it will never come to that. The bank will always do what the government wants. And therefore, to pretend there's independence is disingenuous at best, an outright lie at worst, if you like. But it's an incredibly useful pretense to politicians who can claim, oh, these wise people have dictated that you must suffer for this policy, which they would otherwise impose. And that's incredibly convenient for a Chancellor who doesn't want to accept responsibility for imposing what harsh measures they think they would like to impose otherwise. So this is a political sham to deliver economic policy that is against the interests of the majority of the people of this country, as that which has been put in place since late 2021 has been, and get away with political responsibility for it. I don't believe that that is right. I believe that democratic accountability for the economic policy of a government should rest with the elected politicians, not with some officials who are supposedly in charge. I believe we should end this sham and let's get the Bank of England back under central government control. That's what we should be doing. Let's get on with it.